Okay, now that our windows and doors are located on our house, the next thing we need to do is to build our roof. And our roof is going to cover the top of the house from this peak to this peak. So the dimensions of the roof are a little bit tricky, and you may need to read the directions in your book a couple of times before you understand it. So the first thing you want to do is get the right toolbar out, and that is called the dimension palette. So you're going to have to go to View, Palettes, Dimension, and this is what the dimension palette looks like. You have horizontal dimensions, vertical dimensions, angular dimensions, and those are going to be the ones we need to use in order to get our roof measurements done. Okay, so the first thing you need to understand is we want to have a 2-foot overhang all the way around the house where the roof meets the walls, so that when it rains, the water doesn't drip down the face of the house. Otherwise, you'd wear out your siding and you'd get water problems maybe behind the siding and run into mold issues and everything else. Okay, that's a big part of why homes have soffits and overhangs where the wall meets the roof. So what we want to do is we want to get a measurement of the overall length of the house. Now the length, that's easy because we already know how long the house is. It's 50 feet. So just to verify that, I'm going to get my horizontal dimension out, and it gives me a little target, and it says first point. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select on the first point, and then it says second point. I need to then select the second point of my dimension, and then the anchor, when I click a third time, it's going to give me the overall length of that dimension. So it tells me right here that the length of the house is 50 feet. So if I need a 2-foot overhang on both ends, I need to take 50 plus 4. So the length of my roof is going to be 54 feet. Okay, I'm just going to take my text tool and write that down here. 54 feet. Just so that I remember it. Next, I'm going to take my angular dimension. And the reason why is you need to understand that we can't simply measure the vertical dimension here of the floor and say that the roof is 54 by 34. That's not correct. So what we need to do is we need to figure out what the width of the roof is going to be, because the roof has to make it up this peak and down this peak. And we need to understand that the length to travel up and down this peak is much greater than the distance to travel from here to here, which is only 30 feet. So let's take this angular dimension tool and let's take a measurement from this corner of the peak all the way to the top of the peak. And that measurement is 21 feet 2 9/16 inches. So what I'd like to do is say this. This number here needs to be doubled in order to make it down the other side of the peak. So if that number, 21 and 2 9/16 inches, gets rounded up to 22 feet, and I double that, that becomes 44 feet. So it's 44 feet to make it up and down. And then I want a 2-foot overhang here and a 2-foot overhang here. That brings me to what? 48 feet. So my roof dimension is going to be 54 long by 48 wide. So I'm just going to write that number down here. 48 feet wide. Okay, now let's go back and say, okay, why is it 54 by 48? Well, it's 54 because this is 50 feet long plus 2 feet overhang on each end. That's 54. It's 48 because it takes 22 feet to get up the peak, 22 feet to get down, that's 44, plus a 2-foot overhang here and a 2-foot overhang here. And that brings me to 48. Now it's very important that you understand which side gets folded down the middle. And it's the 48 side that's going to get folded down the middle. So what you want to do is you want to go to the square tool. You also want to make sure that your show size palette is once again out. And starting in an intersection, you want to click and go over 48 feet. I didn't give myself enough room there, so I'm going to start here. Go over 48 feet. Oh, I know why it's giving me a hard time. Layout, set my grid back to 2 feet. I had changed it from the last demo. So starting here again, over 48 feet and down 54. There. Now I can go to my line tool and select the 90-degree line and make sure that that fold line gets placed down the top. That becomes the peak of my roof. Okay? I can also make the pixel thickness of that line to be 2 so that it's easier to see once I put a pattern on that roof. So this roof now is 54 the long way and 48 the short way. And that's the right size roof for a 50 by 30 size house. Now, again, you'll want to save your work. File, Save As. Make sure you're in the right folder. And add 1 digit to the end of your title. Target House 3. Click Save. And there's your roof.